Rancho Americana Insurance and the Austin Bruins. And with me now is our special guest, the local professional fisherman, as we like to say, Mr. Dylan Thompson. How are you doing today, Dylan?
I'm good, Dave. How are you?
We're doing good. Another edition of Fishing with Dylan. And you can always check these back on your Facebook site afterwards, whether you come into the studio or like even right now, we got these microphones on that are recording it, so people can go back and listen to this. And so if they miss anything, go to Facebook and you can catch all the previous episodes, maybe those hot tips, and then maybe you could be the judge for yourself if we're going over the line on attracting too many people to Albert Lee.
Yeah, fun. Last week was fun, and it ended up being a little more fun after the fact. The listen back post got a lot of attention on Facebook. I got some love letters. I got some hate mail. Some, you get a little bit of everything with everybody. Some people were really upset that I shared some info about a bite being good in town. But that's exactly why we're doing this, right? Is to encourage people to get out and enjoy the resources we have available locally and across our great state, right?
Well, and that's why the city, the state, the DNR. I mean, that's why they spend so much money on these lakes. It's not for the 4 or 5 fishermen. It's to really build Albert Lee as the kind of that tourist hub.
Exactly.
That one day we want it to be. There's no reason why we can't be one of the best fishing hubs in the state. We have 2 beautiful lakes. One beautiful, one getting there beautiful.
Yeah, it's good.
It's good fishing, but it's more than just fishing. It's over the last few years they've done so much to get Albert Lee Lake with the canoes and kayaks and
right
and all of those things. And I mean, I know I talk to a lot of people that they'll literally go to, I think it's called Golden Point there, and they'll get on a tube and they'll go down and they get picked up like down in Northwood.
Sure.
They tube the whole way down.
Oh my gosh, a buddy and I did that. We put in down at Juglin's. This was like 25 years ago or something, right? We had some flooding one fall, and we went to Walmart and bought an inflatable raft and put in at Juglin's, and the water was obviously high, and we made it down to, I think it's County 89, the Ulen pit, and we were like, oh, we need to go back, right? Well, we'd left our car up at Juglin's and didn't bring another one. So we're like furiously paddling, trying to go back upriver in this flat bottom inflatable boat, right? It was not a smooth process.
No.
We struggled. I think we paddled as hard as we could for maybe 15 minutes, and if we went 50 yards, I'd have been impressed. So by now, of course, it was late in the evening when we put in, so it's pitch black. We climbed the riverbank into a cornfield. My friend stepped on some barbed wire, and he laid down on the ground and told me he thought we were going to die out there. Like, I could see the wastewater treatment plant from where we were. But we ended up hiking through the cornfield and then through a little slough and got back to civilization. And yeah, it ended up, at the time, we were a little stressed out, but it was a great adventure, ton of fun. And that's the kind of stuff I want to hear from people, right? We were trying to catch some fish out on the river, weren't super experienced, but it's a great story now, years later, right? I tell my kids, they laugh at me. I hope some people listening just giggled at that, right? And I hope it encourages them to go out and explore the outdoors in whatever fashion you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Shed hunting's picking up. We've talked about that a couple times in the first few episodes. That is starting to be a better thing now, and with the mild temps this weekend and into next week, this is a great opportunity to go out and clomp through what's left of the snow and try to find some antlers. That's fun. They make great dog toys. They make great...
They do.
My wife might not agree with this, but I like to use them as home decor.
And I know... I actually had an inflatable deer head one time, and
Yeah?
because my wife said there was no way I was going to put a dead animal on the wall, so I ended up getting an inflatable, and that didn't last long either.
No,
and she's here now. They're just like she's looking, but yeah.
Like, and I can imagine, like, she couldn't even believe you could take something tacky and make it tackier, right?
Well, I mean, yeah.
Good for you, Dave, for accepting the challenge.
And the Buddy Bass or whatever, Billy
Bass,
all
yeah.
those things.
Singing Elvis songs.
I know my buddy Lon, and I don't know if he's going to get to listen. They're actually up at Mille Lacs right now, and I want to talk about that a little bit too. But we always tease that would be the only fish he'd ever get on his wall would be a billy bass. And so yeah, like I said, but yeah, we're gonna talk about fishing, and I want to talk a little bit more about Albert Lee Fountain, things like that. But I know one thing, we have a lot of people that go up north, and the local fishing report that I have right now from Mille Lacs, where they're at, it's slow. Maybe getting some bigger perch. They had a
Sure.
small walleye, but my buddy Lon, he's actually at the point now where he's done trying to catch any fish. He's just catching bottle bass instead.
Yeah.
But like I said, and once again, that's the thing, is it depends on where you go.
I told you to not say sounds.
That's my son. You can hear him in the background. But what are we finding out here in Albert Lee? And I mean, the ice houses, they're moving around. You mean
There's been a lot of movement on the lake this week. When it was really cold, no, I didn't really hear anything throughout the core of the week. But as the week went on and it warmed up a little bit, people got out there and started moving stuff around. And I didn't see it on a tape measure, but I saw a picture of it. The guy claimed a 44-inch northern out of Fountain this week.
Wow.
That is world class, right?
Yes.
Fantastic fish anywhere. And there's been other reports of upper 30s, 40-inch class fish most of the winter. So that's a good opportunity. But the bass, walleye, and pike season ends tomorrow at midnight. So if you want...
that's one thing we talked about last week, so it is.
And he caught it on the hot dog we talked about last
really?
week. Yes,
Wow.
no joke. So I said it, I mean it. The hot dog is a legit tip-up bait.
Well, and actually, and the funny thing is anytime you ever talk about something, on your phone, they're always listening. Literally, that later on that afternoon, someone had sent a picture, or it was on one of the fishing things I follow, and it showed when they had gutted the northern that there was a full hot dog in there. Full one.
There we go.
So, like I said, it's one of those. It is true. Now, did he? So he obviously just used a cutout.
I mean, he put a whole hot dog on a treble hook and dropped it down.
Okay. Now, was that on the tip up or was that?
Yep, on
okay,
tip up.
Nice. That's still, man. That's. I've caught fish out of the ice, and you get, you get some of these big ones. I couldn't imagine pulling a 44.
Oh,
out of the
that's
ice.
wild. This is kind of another walk down memory lane. But my oldest son, Zach, and I were fishing on a Park Rapids area lake years ago. Nice clear water. We were in the hut, and we were jigging some panfish up, and all of a sudden they all bailed. And we looked down the hole, and this great big pike came through, right? And Boyo dropped the jig on this fish's head, right? Like basically tapped. He didn't care about anything, right? Swam right past us. Well, we had a tip up out maybe 30 yards off the side of the house. And a couple minutes after he went through, the flag went up. So we flipped the lid up on the shack. Both ran out there. That spool on the tip up was spinning so fast that the whole thing was just shaking in the hole. So that fish took that tip up. And, I mean, it was going 1,000 miles an hour. We pulled the tip up, grabbed the string, and he must have not had hook because everything just let go at once. And we didn't get a shot at him. But that was a 40-inch class fish for sure. And an awesome memory from seeing that fish and jigging on him. We were giggling because he literally hit it in the head like twice with his jig, and the fish didn't care.
I don't know how many times, when we used to go out, we'd go out to a buddy's wheelhouse there. Of course, he started using the camera system.
Yep.
And you literally would take some of those northern and drop stuff on their head, and they wouldn't come after it.
Nope.
So it's just, it's crazy how different things, work and stuff like that. Now, when you're talking about tip ups, so you got some news about some possible legislation coming up on some tip up stuff.
I did hear that there is a group of lawmakers in Minnesota that are trying to legalize a self-setting tip-up, like a jaw jacker is something it's called, or there are some devices where you can put your rod under tension, and when the fish comes and takes it, your rod tip springs up and automatically sets the hook. Those devices are currently illegal in Minnesota, but they are legal in neighboring states and Canada, and there is a push now to kind of catch up with the rest of the world, so to speak, and make those legal in Minnesota. And I think that makes a ton of sense. You're going to have far fewer mortally wounded fish because, with that hook set on its own, the fish doesn't have time to swallow the hook, right? So you're going to save more fish. To me, it makes a ton of sense. I'd love to hear from the DNR why it hasn't been lately. And a lot of times that's just bureaucracy and takes time for them to work through it. And I get that. So we'll see how it all goes. But I think that would be a cool thing to see.
Yeah. Now, just regular fishing, what have you really heard? I mean, is it still kind of, dead stick? What kind of baits and things like that, or jigs have really kind of been heating up?
Rattle baits have been good. I haven't heard anything about jigging wraps lately, and normally those are really solid. Maybe there's not quite enough commotion, but like blade baits, vibrating baits, anything that makes a lot of commotion has been good. And then still the tip up with a live minnow has been solid. Or a hot dog. The hot dog, I guess, I've heard more pike being caught on those than anything lately. Get out there and make some noise, I guess, is what I would say. Not above the ice. You got to be quiet on top. I've seen many times where, you'll be in a house with a guy opening his lunchbox and throwing stuff on the ice and dropping this and fumbling around in the tub or, whatever if you're in a portable and you're not catching very many fish. Well, meanwhile, your buddy's in a house 10, 20 yards away and they're being quiet and not making a ton of noise. And they're catching way more fish, right? So be aware of that, especially clear water. It makes a big difference. I mean, keep your commotion to a minimum. Try to get away from the pack as much as you can. But there's also something to be said. Sometimes the pack is where it's at for a reason, too. So you got to balance all that out.
Now, one thing that I found interesting, I was talking to Lon, he said up at Mille Lacs specifically, and I'm not sure what other lakes this comes with, you can no longer go to the bathroom on the ice. You're supposed to be using a container when you go to the bathroom. Now, is that something new, and is it just certain lakes, or is that kind of a statewide thing now?
That is a statewide thing. They changed that last year. They really wanted to get after the litter and refuse on the lakes after people leave. So there's a huge push with the COs. If you've got garbage or waste on the lake, you're going to get a ticket.
Okay.
Yes, I don't think they're doing warnings.
Exposure ticket too,
wow.
Depending
on if he sees you disposing of your waste. That's where that might come in. But
I know that's one of those things that I kind of teased because there's three guys up in an ice house, and you know what it's like when you go up on a weekend trip. Sometimes that house can just get rank, and I'm like, so did they make you go outside? And I'm like, you can't. It's illegal now, and that was one of those things that I did not know.
You better be good friends with your ice shack mates.
Well, there is that. Anytime you spend a few days out on the ice, yeah. So one thing that I've really been seeing out there a lot now too. Some of these ice augers. There's so many different options. What's kind of the newest thing with ice augers?
So many people are going to just buying your bit and putting it on a heavy duty hand drill, like a Milwaukee 18 volt. DeWalt's got the big 20 volt max setups, big hammer drills, and a lot of people do that for really lightweight and portability. And then a lot of the big auger names, Strike Master, Ion. There's a ton of electric options out there. And when you talk about being quiet on top of the ice, firing up that old 3-horse Tecumseh on your Indian, that thing roars, wow. Right? Somebody fires one of those up on the lake anymore and everybody kind of looks in disgust, right? Like, what kind of caveman is out here drilling holes? Electric is the thing right now, be it a drill handle or a bigger power head with a 24 or 40 volt setup is really where the world has gone. And it makes sense. It's quiet. It's much lighter than those big.
For a while, there were LP ones and all these different things.
I really liked the Jiffy LP ones. They were super reliable, easy starting. Propane burns really clean. You didn't have the carb problems of mixing all that 2-stroke stuff. That was a really good thing. It didn't last long because electric swooped in right behind
Yeah.
it and blew right past it.
Yeah, and I know like my electric one, that's the same thing that I use on my Hummingbird. Same battery and everything like
Yeah.
that. So like I said, a lot of the stuff's interchangeable. So what else do you really want the listeners to know here as we got to get this wrapped up?
Ice season is winding down for bass, northern, and walleye. Like we said, that ends tomorrow night. Panfish is continuous and will stay open, as long as there's ice and even after there's ice. And late ice can be some of the best pan fishing opportunities of the season. They'll start to migrate to the edges of the basins as they anticipate the ice going away. So start chasing them towards shore. Up until now, they've kind of migrated away from shore. So now we want to start moving the other direction again, follow those fish back towards shore. And then as the ice comes off, they'll move into the shallows because bugs and stuff start hatching, and that's where they're going to be eating. So, the later the ice is, the further towards shore you're going to be moving. With the lack of snow cover, if you can find living weeds, if you have that camera set up and can find some weeds with some life in them, those are going to be the first places on shore you're going to want to look because that's well oxygenated water and the bugs will start in there right away. Another interesting tip is the north side of lakes is usually going to be the first areas that warm up because of the way the sun warms the water up. So start thinking about that stuff as we migrate into panfish only seasons. I guess we talked about the shed hunting, and the other thing, turkey hunting, we've mentioned that a couple times. That's a little ways off yet. It opens April 16th for the first season, but there is no longer a lottery for that except for a couple select areas in the state. Carlos Avery, WMA, and there might be two others where you still need a lottery ticket to hunt those areas, but the rest of the state is wide open. You can buy your ticket over the counter. So go dust off your turkey vest, chuck up that box call, make sure you got, appropriate ammo. And if you need to do some target practice to make sure your patterns are good, now's a great time to start thinking about that stuff. Because it'll be on top of us before we know it. And
Very true.
I can't wait to talk about that. My boy and I love turkey hunting.
And we got March coming right around the corner, and we hope that it starts to warm up. This week is going to warm up, so be safe out there on the ice. And once again, tonight at midnight, no.
Tomorrow at midnight.
Tomorrow at midnight is the end of the walleye in northern.
And bass.
But if you're a big crappie fisherman like we are,
Going is just getting going right now.
Exactly. So, all right. Well, Dylan, I want to thank you again for doing another spot here, and hopefully we didn't you won't get too much hate mail this week.
No, I doubt it.
We didn't give out too many secrets. So, but yeah, you go out there and get your line wet and catch some big fish. So. With that, we gotta go. It is noon.
Yeah, I just looked at my watch. We're over already.
You know what? And that's fine. That's the thing about being locally owned and where we do everything. It doesn't bother us at all if we go a little over.
Right.
Because you know what? It's good entertainment for everybody. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna take a little bit of a break here. You're gonna hear me back on the air. It'll be myself and Brian Ball on the call at 5 o'clock. As the Albertley Tigers face off against Northfield live from the rec center. So if you need, listen to music for the next 5 hours, and then you get to hear me all over again.
Yeah, hopefully we have some really good hockey and wrestling reports when we come back next week.
Exactly. So and next Saturday, we may not be doing a Tiger Sports Saturday live here from the Pizza Ranch. It may actually come from the X. So we'll let you know more about that depending on how everything falls. But with that, this has been Sports Director Dave Nelson here on a Tiger Sports Saturday. Thanks again to all of our sponsors, Americana Insurance, Trades and Labor Federal Credit Union, Bayview Freeburn Funeral Home, the Albertley Seed House, Southern Minnesota Branding, Derek's Preferred Auto, Star Granite Works, GT Window and Door, the Austin Bruins, Stars Mentoring, Martha Aller Honda, Elf Orthodontics, Becker Auto Sales, Young Construction and Roofing, Etc. Credit Union, Studio 22 Salon, Landscaping Solutions, and Arcadian Bank. And of course, your Tiger Sports Saturday sponsors, the Pizza Ranch, Americana Insurance, and the Austin Bruins. We'll see you all here in just a matter of a few hours.